Chitty chitty bang bang. What's up, my dudes? This is the track review of 2017 Wildside Designs MX made by the one and only JGMX. So pretty cool little different style design of a track from what you usually see from JGMX. If you've been playing his tracks for a while now, you would know kind of how most of them have a very similar sort of standard feel to them, but this one has a lot more of a micro rut style, kind of like micro bump, tighter corner. It's kind of hard to explain exactly the differences between this track and what he usually has, if you don't really know JGMX tracks very well. But this one's pretty different, and I like whenever track makers will get out of their comfort zone every once in a while, and they'll make something a little bit different than what they usually make. And a lot of times that can come with hate, and it can come with disagreement and people that don't like your tracks. But I mean, I'm the fucking king of making tracks that people are gonna hate because they're so crazy different, but I'll sacrifice that, you know? Like, if I want to make something that is insanity that nobody has ever even imagined making before, and a lot of people are probably going to hate it, I don't really care. I'm still going to make it because it's for the culture, you know what I'm saying? It's trying to move the whole entire genre forward, and I've done that on a multiple of occasions. I mean, I can come in here and make this kind of track all day long, or your standard woodland, normal ruts, normal jumps, normal roughness, like that's basic to me. Like, I mean, I know I don't have very many of my custom tracks out there like that because I just see it as like so basic, and that's what everybody does. So I always try to do like super different stuff, but apparently I'm going to have to come on here and start making some tracks like this just to prove to everybody that I can do it. I know how to make a normal track. So I think it's pretty funny, but yeah, it's just, and I think it's time for me to go in there and make some more standard style, more realistic type tracks like this, where the jumps aren't 5 million feet long and launch you straight up to Pluto and back. So I think it's going to be important for me to go in there and make some stuff like that, and it'll be fun because I know even though it's like the generic, basic, everyday thing that people make, I haven't really made any tracks like that, just because I never wanted to be known as that dude that made that same old, same standard stuff, you know, all the time. So it's kind of funny. It's like I'm going back to more of the super basic, but it feels crazy different to me. So be looking out for some custom tracks coming up pretty soon from me. But back to the track review here. This track has a lot of super tight corners where you got to be careful. You got to be patient with it. I could definitely see where this track would frustrate quite a few people just simply because of the style of the way that some of this roughness and kind of how the corners curve with the types of ruts. It's like the ruts are almost so small that you catch it's like you almost catch the actual tire on it or whatever. Like when it's hard to explain that if you don't know what I'm talking about, but like when you, damn, I almost saved this right here, but that would have been a cool, crazy moment. But it's almost like when you go into a corner and it's like the front end of the bike will sort of like hang up on you. It'll sort of like, it's almost like it catches in the rut, or it like catches on the ground or something. And a lot of times that happens when you have really small micro ruts like this. So you just got to be a little bit more patient with it. I do like the actual ground decal here, and it's pretty cool whenever I have my settings maxed out because I'm actually seeing everything for what it's supposed to be, not like a medium graphical version of everything like it was before. So but it's your standard local track. I mean, as far as the actual like layout and everything, it's pretty similar to your normal everyday JGMX style tracks, but as far as like the filling of the dirt and the way the ruts are built and sort of how the roughness is and stuff, that's what I'm talking about whenever I say it's a little bit more different than what he usually makes. So and just kind of the sharpness of some of these corners, you really got to slow the bike down, because if you get going too quick in there, you're just going to launch right out of the ruts and you're not going to be able to really stay on the track. It's one of those tracks definitely where slower is faster for sure, and you'll realize that once you get on it. But now right here in this corner, I always get way off of the track right there, and I'm like totally cheating, going way off of the berm, but that's okay. Got a nice little scrub jump right here, really fun, almost kind of Talladega banked up corner where you never really have to let off. Another fun scrub single right there. As far as all the off-track stuff, pretty decent. Now there's a lot of tree statues on this track, not tree billboards, and I know that's always what I sort of say, like, don't do it, man, don't put the tree statues. I know it adds a lot of good looks to tracks out there, but what you got to realize is everybody doesn't have a monster PC, and when you start putting something as repetitive as a tree as an actual statue instead of a billboard, it's gonna hog that motherfucker down in comparison, you know? Like, and the thing about it is, the billboards don't look all that much more on the, like, bad side, if you find the right kind of billboards. Now, it's okay to have, like, 1 or 2 tree statues, like, actually really close to the track, but as far as, like, all these way off in the distance tree statues, I mean, it's just kind of like, it's kind of just not really worth how much it's hogging down the PC, you know? It would be like way better just to have a skybox out there, or like a bunch of standard pine tree billboards way out there in the distance. I understand you're trying to get more of a realistic look, like really close to the track, and that's cool, but like far away from the track, it's really just not, it's not benefiting you as much as in comparison to how much it's actually hurting people that don't have a really good PC. You know, I remember back when I had a more standard, a little bit on the shittier side of a PC, if there was statues, that was like basically the #1 killer to being able to ride on a track, was when it had tree statues. Now, a lot of times, I don't know why it's trees, but a lot of times if you just have other basic statues, like vehicle statues and stuff like that, it's really usually not that bad. God dang, that was definitely a turn down right there. But a lot of times, dude, I was getting squirrely, but a lot of times it's not so bad with different types of statues, but it just seems like with tree statues, for whatever reason, they can just slow down a computer quicker than you can say Bob's your uncle, bro. But I really love this one little jump over here. It's so cool because it's like not really that big of a tabletop, but it's got almost like a steeper landing than the actual face of it. So you got to be perfect with your throttle control over the jump face to land it perfect. And I love jumps like that. I've always been a big fan of really peaked out jumps with peaked out landings, especially on like a motocross track where you don't normally see them. That's kind of cool. It's almost like having a smoothed off supercross rhythm section or like supercross jump. It's like kind of backwards from what you usually see, and I always love seeing that style of variation to custom track making. But I do like his off track. He's got his grass billboards, a nice combination of grass decal mixed with sort of dirt decal, kind of painted and splintered through here. So looks good, doesn't look too basic off track or anything. And he's got some natural hill, you can just see these natural hills over here. It's kind of like the track's worked into these hills, so it looks really good, super natural. Everything just kind of looks like your normal local track kind of motocross style that a lot of people would make a track when they go to build something on a hillside like this. It definitely looks realistic in that sense. Let me back this up a little bit. Wow, dude, that looks really cool with the graphics maxed out like this. I am having a little problem. I don't know if it's because I'm playing in such a higher resolution, but whenever I try to like move in this camera, it's hard to actually keep it perfectly still. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe I'm just not used to this many pixels. I'm not really sure. That's the only thing I can even imagine. I know it's not going to make sense to anybody, but that's the only thing I can even imagine that's causing it to do that. But like, I basically can't just keep this camera still for some reason. I don't know. But either way, yeah, it's a totally different game, dude, whenever you get it on maximum graphics compared to like low to medium graphics. It's a totally different experience, no doubt. Especially looking at it from this view right here. It's like, oh my god, this feels like MX Simulator 5 or some shit. So pretty cool natural little corners through the hills. Nice little sort of steep style tabletop. fairly simple. It's a good beginner style track. You got one double over here that, or two doubles, I guess. Both of probably the hardest jumps on the track are right here together. You got kind of like the finish line double right there, and then you got this other little double. It's not really that they're super difficult. It's just one of those, like, if you come up short, you're probably going to die, you know? That's just kind of how motocross is, especially MX Simulator, you know, super similar to real life. You got to think about how real life is. Anytime you come up short on something that has a gap to it, you're basically fucked, like, regardless, you know? I mean, you can get good at this game and no doubt get better, but all you're really getting better at is just, like, the distances of jumps. Like, if I came over here and landed short on one of these doubles, I would still case the shit out of it and die. Like, I'm not some kind of superhuman just because I played this game a lot. Like, you still have to be very precise with the way you land any sort of gap jumps, and it just makes it very dangerous. But it seems like the more you play it, you just get better at figuring out, like, just like standard sizes of gaps out there usually, and just kind of how to hit them and stuff. But even this one baby little double right here, I mean, I came up short on it once, came up just like pretty much as bad short as you possibly could, and it knocked me right off of that bike, dude. Don't think for a second I'm like, you know, just because you get really good at the game, you just become like this invincible, can never crash kind of person. Like, it's still a super realistic experience of a game. It's just, it's like you get so much better with your catalog of distances of jumps in your head, and you just, you know how to hit it, you know how to get around normal style tracks and stuff. So most of the time I can hop on any track out there and hit every single jump on it the first lap out there. And if I come up an inch short, I would literally die. So it's kind of, it's crazy that you get really good at that, and you start to forget how precise you really are getting at this game. You start to forget how close you are to crashing basically constantly. It starts to, like, completely leave your brain, whereas, like, when you're a beginner, you're constantly thinking about that because you don't really know how to ride the bike. But either way, this track definitely decent overall. Cool to see something different from you, JGMX. Definitely want to continue to see tracks. There's just not a whole lot of custom tracks out there anymore, man. Maybe I need to start getting into some custom track guide building shit like that or something. I don't know. I know I kind of dabbled with that a little bit at one point in time, but never really got too deep into it. Maybe I should start making some vids like that to help some people out that want to make some custom tracks. And you know, I feel like I have a very, very simplistic way of doing it, not hard to learn at all, that I've kind of figured out and put together myself. I don't build tracks or even play this game like anybody else. Everything I do in my life is almost completely different from anybody else. I've always been that way. It cracks me up when people say, like, oh, Spencer, you know, why is your setup like this, or why do you do this, or why do you have that? I can't believe you can even, how can you even ride with that, man? How do you even do that? It's like, dog, like, everything I do in my life is drastically different from everybody else. If somebody's going one way, I go the complete opposite way. That's just the way I've always been. And it's always seemed to benefit me because I don't rely on anybody else. I don't basically, like, look at what somebody else is doing and just do every single thing that they're doing with the way that they figure out things. I like to figure it out on my own because not only does it make me learn it in a better way and figure out little mistakes that maybe some other people are making, but also it allows me to possibly figure out, like, an entirely different way to do it that nobody else has even thought about doing before, and therefore you can become better than anybody else in that sense. If you just take people's advice and that's all you ever do, and you just do what other people do, you're never going to get better than anybody else. Eventually you have to break away from that little stem of that tree to ever grow your own tree that could potentially be even taller and produce more. So, you know, that's kind of the way it is. But I'm going to give this track a, in an overall sense, I got to be careful with rating tracks because everything looks super amazing in comparison now that I have this new PC. I'm going to give it a, I thought it was realistic, fun, roughness, tight corners were cool and different, jumps were fun. I'm going to give it a 7 overall, and I'm going to say the difficulty is easy. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.